I never thought I'd find myself in a situation where betrayal would cut so deep, but here I am, trying to make sense of everything that happened. My name's Mike, and I married Emily about 5 years ago. We had what most people would call a good marriage, friendly, comfortable, with a lot of shared memories. But everything changed when my grandmother died. She was the one person I loved more than anything, and her funeral was supposed to be a celebration of her life, a somber gathering of family and friends. Instead, it turned into the moment everything unraveled. Leading up to the funeral, Emily was acting a bit strange, distant, restless, avoiding my eyes. She'd always been a bit bitchy, but this was different. She'd snap at me for nothing, say she was tired, and brush off my questions when I asked if she was okay. Looking back now, I realized she was hiding something. She kept insisting she was just overwhelmed and didn't want to ruin the day, but I knew better. Something was off. The day of the funeral was emotionally draining, and I was trying to hold everything together. My brother Jake was there too, and I remember catching him glance at Emily more than once, with a strange look in his eyes, like he knew something I didn't. I brushed it off, telling myself I was just imagining things because I was too grief-stricken. But then, after everything was over, I started noticing little things. Her phone kept ringing at odd hours. She'd go to the bathroom and stay there for a long time. And the biggest sign: she started wearing this new perfume I'd never smelled before, something sweet but also a little seductive. One night I was going through our bedroom drawer and found her phone unattended. I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me. I unlocked her phone, and what I saw made my stomach drop. There were messages, texts full of flirty comments, and even some that hinted at something more than just friendship. The messages were between her and someone named Jake. Not my brother. I knew it wasn't him because I'd seen his phone. This was different. There were photos, two of her in bed with this guy, half naked, smiling like they were sharing a secret world that I was completely shut out of. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My mind raced. How long has this been going on? How could she lie so effortlessly? I felt a mix of rage, sadness, and disbelief all at once. I was supposed to be grieving my grandmother, but instead I was grieving the loss of my wife's fidelity and trust. I stared at those messages, feeling an icy numbness settle over me. It was like someone had punched me in the gut. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in the dark, staring at the phone, trying to process the betrayal I'd uncovered. The worst part, she'd been lying about everything. She told me she was staying late at work, that she was tired, that she just needed some me time. Turns out she was sneaking around with my best friend. The fact that she'd lied about so much about everything made me question who I thought she was. I mean, she's always been a manipulative, bitchy woman, but this was a whole new level. I felt like I'd been hit by a freight train. The love I thought we had was a lie. The trust I'd given her was shattered. Now I'm stuck in this place, wondering what to do next. Do I confront her? Do I cut her out of my life? Do I try to forgive her and pretend like it never happened? I don't even know who she really is anymore. She's been lying about everything, playing her games, and I don't think I can ever look at her the same way again. That's where I am now, trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces of a marriage that's been broken beyond repair. I took a few days to myself after I found out about the messages. Honestly, I was just trying to breathe, trying to keep my head from exploding. I kept replaying everything in my mind: her sneaky texts, the photos, the way she'd been acting so damn secretive. It felt like my whole world had been flipped upside down. I didn't want to jump to conclusions too fast, but deep down, I knew this wasn't just a fling or some meaningless affair. No, this was something serious. She'd been lying to me for months, if not longer, and had the nerve to keep lying even after I found out. I remember sitting on the couch that night, staring at her phone, trying to hold my composure. My hands were shaking, and I could feel a mixture of anger and heartbreak boiling inside me. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I knew that wouldn't solve anything. Instead, I waited until she was asleep, then I quietly took her phone and put it in my pocket. I had to see everything, all the proof I could get, so I could confront her with facts, not just assumptions. The next day, I decided I couldn't keep this bottled up anymore. I needed answers, and I knew exactly how I was going to get them. I waited until she left for work. She was always so bitchy about her job, making it seem like her career was more important than anything else in her life. I went through her emails, her social media, her text messages. I wanted to know the full extent of her lies, and what I found was even worse. She'd been talking to this guy, Jake, almost every day, sometimes multiple times. They'd shared secrets, flirted constantly, and even planned to meet up again soon. She told him she was so empty without him, how much she hated the life she was living, and how she needed something more. It was clear she was addicted to the thrill, to the secret meetings, to the lying. She convinced herself she was hiding it from me, but how could she? I saw the text exchanges, the screenshots, the times she'd said she was working late when she was really sneaking off to meet him. The thing that cut the deepest was how she lied so effortlessly. When I confronted her that night, I had all this proof in hand. I told her I knew everything about the messages, the photos, the meetings, her reaction. She played the victim. She said I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, that I had no right to judge her because I'd been distant lately. She called me crazy, said I was blowing things out of proportion, and that I was insecure. The way she spun it, you'd think I was the one at fault for catching her cheating. That moment hurt so much. Seeing her try to manipulate me, to turn everything around on me, like I was the one causing the problem, made me feel sick. I thought I knew her. I thought she was the woman I married, but she was just a master at hiding her real self. I started questioning everything. Who was she really? Was she just a liar, a cheat, a manipulator who played her games while I was busy grieving my grandmother? I felt so betrayed, so foolish for trusting her in the first place. At this point, I was furious. Not just sad or hurt, I was angry. Angry at her for doing this to me, for lying so damn much, for betraying everything we built together. And angry at myself for not seeing the signs sooner. I kept asking myself, how could I have missed it? How did I not see that the woman I loved was just a facade? I thought about all the moments I thought were normal, her dismissiveness, her sudden mood swings, and realized now they all had roots in her secret life. She'd been lying to me for so long behind my back, and I was just blind to it. I knew I had to make a decision, but I wasn't ready yet. I couldn't just walk away without knowing everything. I had to figure out what I wanted, whether to fight for this marriage or to let her go, but honestly right now I didn't see a future with her. Not after all this. The trust was shattered and I didn't think I could ever rebuild what was broken. I just wanted to understand how she thought she could get away with this, how she could keep lying to my face all these months, and how I was supposed to move on from someone who had lied so blatantly. So I kept digging, kept gathering evidence, and prepared myself for the confrontation I knew was coming. I didn't want to do it in anger, I wanted to do it with facts. But I knew deep down that once I called her out, everything was going to change forever, and I wasn't sure I was ready for that. The confrontation finally happened a few days later. I couldn't take it anymore. Every time I saw her, I felt this boiling rage mixed with deep hurt. I knew I had to face her, get it all out in the open, and finally hear what she had to say. She came home from work that evening with her usual bitchy attitude, trying to act like nothing had happened. That made me even angrier. I sat her down in the living room, pulled out her phone, and laid all the evidence on the table, the messages, the photos, the screenshots. Her face twisted into this ugly, defensive sneer. She looked at me like I was some kind of crazy person, like I was the one overreacting. "Mike, what the hell are you doing?" She snapped, trying to play innocent. That's when I exploded. I told her I knew everything about her lies, her cheating, her secret meetings with Jake. I told her I was done playing her game, done being the fool who trusted her. Her reaction was classic Emily. She instantly started lying, throwing out excuses faster than I could process. She said the messages were blown out of proportion, that Jake was just a friend, and that I was crazy for believing I had some kind of claim to her life. She told me she was tired of my accusations, that I was possessive and paranoid, and that I didn't understand her. She even had the nerve to call me insecure, like I was the one at fault for getting upset. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her. I had proof, screenshots, pictures, everything. That I wasn't some jealous fool, that I trusted her and she threw it all away. Her face went red with rage, then she started screaming at me, calling me pathetic, saying I was overreacting because I couldn't handle the truth. Honestly, I think she wanted me to be the one to apologize, to back down and pretend everything was fine. But I refused. I said I couldn't stay with someone who lied so effortlessly, who played me for a fool. That's when she started to get really bitchy. She looked me dead in the eyes and spat. "You're just jealous because I'm better than you. You're too boring, too predictable. Jake makes me feel alive, Mike. You never did." That line hit me like a punch to the gut. I'd always known she had a bitchy streak, but hearing her say that about me, about how she'd been cheating because I was boring, it made me realize just how much she'd been manipulating me. She'd been using me, pretending to be this loving wife, while secretly craving something more exciting. By the end of that night, I was exhausted, emotionally drained and furious. I told her to pack her things, that I didn't want her near me anymore. She kept crying, begging, trying to justify her actions. But I knew I'd made up my mind. I couldn't be with someone who lied so blatantly, who played with my feelings like they were nothing. When she finally left, I just sat in the silence, staring at the door, feeling emptier than I ever had in my life. The next few days were a blur. I felt a mix of relief and devastation. I'd always believed in marriage, in loyalty, in honesty. And here I was, betrayed at the deepest level. The pain was raw, but part of me also felt a strange sense of clarity. I had been blind for too long, ignoring all the signs, convincing myself she was just stressed or overwhelmed. But I knew now she was a liar, a manipulator, and I was better off without her. I started to think about what I wanted next. Was I going to try to fix this, or was it truly over? Honestly, I knew that trust, once broken like this, was nearly impossible to repair. If she could lie to my face about something so significant, what else had she lied about? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I'd never be able to look at her the same way again. She was no longer the woman I married. She was just a stranger who'd played her games and broken my heart. I also thought about Jake. I had to be honest. Part of me wanted to confront him, but I knew that wouldn't change anything. My focus now was on healing, trying to piece myself back together after this mess. I learned that trust is fragile, and once it's shattered, it's nearly impossible to get back. I also learned that some people will do anything to feel alive, even if it means destroying those they claim to love. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know I have to move on, whether that means finding someone who respects me or just being alone for a while. So, here I am. Still hurting, still angry, but also starting to accept that I can't change what she did. I can only control what I do next, and honestly, I'm tired of being the fool who trusted the wrong woman. It's a harsh lesson, but one I needed to learn. I just hope that someday I'll be able to look back and say I got out in time. That's all I can do now, try to pick up the pieces and figure out how to move forward after this betrayal. It's funny how life throws these curveballs when you least expect them. After she left, I felt this hollow emptiness, but at the same time, I knew I couldn't keep living in shock. I had to do something, anything, to take back control of my life. I started planning my next steps carefully, trying to decide what was best for me. Honestly, part of me wanted to destroy her, to make her pay for what she'd done. But I also knew that wouldn't bring me peace. Revenge isn't ever as satisfying as you think it'll be. Still, the anger simmered beneath the surface, and I wasn't about to sit back and let her walk all over me. In the days that followed, I cut contact with her completely. Blocked her on everything: texts, social media, even phone calls. I knew I had to establish boundaries, even if it was just for my own sanity. The hardest part was realizing how much I'd trusted her all those years. I kept asking myself, how did I not see it? How could someone I loved and trusted so deeply turn out to be this manipulative, lying bitch? It hurt so much that I was starting to question everything I thought I knew about her, about myself, about what a relationship is supposed to be. But then came the idea of turning the tables on her, not through petty revenge, but in a way that would teach her a real lesson. I didn't want to humiliate her, but I wanted her to feel the same pain I did: betrayal, heartbreak, loss of trust. That's when I decided I'd make her realize what she lost, what she threw away, and I'd do it in a way she'd never see coming. I didn't want her to think she could cheat, lie, and manipulate her way through life without consequences. She needed to understand that her actions had real, lasting repercussions. I started gathering evidence of her ongoing lies. I knew she would try to spin stories, say I was paranoid or overreacting, so I wanted everything on record. I kept a detailed timeline of her lies, her secret meetings, her messages with Jake, and even the times she'd lied about where she was. I also enlisted a private investigator, something I never thought I'd do but saw as necessary. I wanted her to realize I was serious, that I was prepared to go to any length to protect myself from her deception. It was a calculated move, but I figured if she was going to lie and cheat, I'd give her a taste of her own medicine. Meanwhile, I started to rebuild myself. I went to therapy, talked to friends who knew what I was going through, and started focusing on my health and career. I realized I'd been so caught up in the illusions of our marriage that I'd ignored myself. Now, I was trying to get back to who I was before her lies shattered everything. It wasn't easy. Every day was a struggle, some days worse than others. But I knew I had to keep pushing forward. If I didn't, I'd be giving her the victory she didn't deserve. One thing I learned during this process is that betrayal exposes who people really are. Emily's bitchy, manipulative nature came out in full force, and I saw her true colors: selfish, entitled, and totally incapable of genuine remorse. She thought she could lie her way out of everything, but I had enough now. I was done playing her game. I had to take control, even if it meant some painful decisions in the end. I realized I deserved honesty and respect, something she never really gave me. As I prepared for what I knew would be the inevitable showdown, I felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. Part of me wanted her to see what she lost, what she threw away, that her actions had consequences. Part of me wanted her to suffer, even a little, for the hurt she caused. But mostly I wanted to heal and move on, to reclaim my life from her lies and to find peace again. I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it yet, but I knew I had to keep moving forward. And so I waited, gathering my strength, knowing that the next chapter would be the one where I finally face her head-on. I was tired of the lies, tired of the pain, but I was also tired of letting her control my feelings. It was time to take back my power, whatever that looked like. I didn't want to be the fool anymore. I wanted to be the man who finally stops running from the truth and starts facing it head-on. That's where I am now, ready for whatever comes next. The moment finally arrived when I felt I'd gathered enough evidence and mental strength to confront Emily again. I knew I couldn't keep living in the shadows, pretending I hadn't seen everything. I wanted her to hear it straight from me. No more lies, no more games. I arranged to meet her at a neutral place, a quiet cafe where we could talk without interruptions. Honestly, I wasn't sure if I was more afraid of her reaction or of finally exposing all my pain openly. But I knew I had to do it, not just for myself but to end this nightmare once and for all. When she showed up, looking her usual bitchy self, smug, confident, like she had already won, I felt a surge of anger. I looked her in the eyes and laid out everything I'd uncovered. Every message, every meeting, every lie she'd tried to hide. I told her I knew she'd been cheating, lying, manipulating me all along, and that I was done. I wanted her to know I wasn't the fool anymore. I wanted her to see that I saw her for what she really was: an opportunist, a liar, a woman who'd thrown everything away for some fleeting thrill. Her reaction was as expected. She started denying everything, trying to spin stories again. She said I was crazy, that I'd misunderstood her and Jake, that it was just sex, and that I was too insecure to handle the truth. She insisted she loved me, that she'd only been confused, that she was sorry for hurting me. But her words felt hollow, like they were just empty excuses. I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her I didn't want her apologies, I didn't want her lies, and that I was done with her manipulations. My voice was steady, but inside I was raging. How could she lie so effortlessly, so coldly, and then expect me to just accept it? She sat there, furious and defiant, trying to hold her ground, but I could see the cracks in her facade. She was losing her composure, and I knew I'd won in some twisted way. I told her that her betrayal had destroyed any trust I might have had left, and that I was done pretending everything was okay. I told her I'd be filing for divorce, that I wanted nothing more to do with her lies. She looked stunned, like she couldn't believe I was finally calling her out so openly. The bitchy mask she always wore was cracking, exposing the real her, greedy, selfish, and completely unrepentant. That day, I felt like I'd finally taken control of the situation. I didn't scream or yell. I just told her the truth she refused to admit for so long. I said I hoped she'd finally realize what she'd lost: me, someone who loved her and trusted her, because she threw it all away for her own selfish needs. I told her I was done being the fool, done being the one who played along with her lies. I wanted her to know that she'd broken everything we had, and I was walking away, leaving her in her own mess. As she left the cafe, I watched her go with a strange mix of relief and sadness. I wasn't happy about what happened, but I'd finally freed myself from the woman who had lied to my face one time too many. For the first time in months, I felt a little lighter knowing I had faced the truth, no matter how painful. I realized that this wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my dignity, my peace, and my future. I didn't want to be defined by her lies anymore. I wanted to rebuild my life piece by piece without her dragging me down with her deception. That night, I sat alone with my thoughts, reflecting on everything. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I couldn't stay stuck in the past. I'd learned a lot about trust, about betrayal, about myself. I learned that some people aren't worth fighting for, that the truth always comes out eventually, and that no matter how much someone manipulates or lies, you can find the strength to walk away. It's tough as hell, but it's necessary. If you're going through something similar, my advice is, don't stay in denial, don't let the lies define you, and most importantly, don't be afraid to take control of your life again. You deserve honesty and respect, something I only just started to realize I'll never get from someone like her. Now that everything's out in the open, I've been trying to piece my life back together. It's been a long, messy process, and honestly, I still feel the sting every day. Trusting someone, loving them, only to find out it was all a lie, that messes with your head in ways you can't really explain. But I've also learned something important. I am stronger than I thought. Betrayal can break you, sure, but it can also teach you how to rebuild better, smarter, more aware of what's real and what's not. I've started focusing on myself again, my health, my career, my hobbies. I realize now I lost a lot of years wasted on a relationship built on lies. But better late than never, right? Sometimes I catch myself wondering if I'll ever fully trust again. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I do know that I won't let her lie or manipulate me anymore. That part of me is done. I refuse to be a victim of someone else's bullshit. I've come to understand that betrayal reveals people's true colors. Emily was petty, selfish, and incapable of genuine love. She was a liar who thought she could have her cake and eat it too, and she underestimated how much I'd be willing to fight for myself. The thing is, I don't hate her. I just feel disappointment. Disappointed that I gave so much of myself, only to get nothing but lies in return. It's a harsh lesson, but one I think I needed. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the signs earlier. Maybe I could have caught her sooner, prevented myself from investing so much in a marriage that was already dead inside. But I also know that some things are hard to see when you're blinded by love. That's the price you pay for trusting someone blindly. Now I know better. I see the red flags and I'll never ignore them again. The truth is, I don't regret leaving her. It's painful, sure, but it's also freeing. I don't have to pretend anymore, don't have to put up with her bitchy attitude or her lies. I can finally breathe again. I can start fresh and find someone who actually respects me, who values honesty and loyalty, things Emily never truly gave. So, if anyone's reading this who's going through something similar, just know you're not alone. It hurts like hell and it's going to take time, but you will get through it. You will rebuild. Trust me, I've lived it. And in the end, I've learned that the only person who truly matters in this process is yourself. You have to look out for your own happiness and peace. Because once you let someone betray you that badly, only you can put the pieces back together again. And trust me, you're stronger than you think.